Hello and welcome to our RLCS NA Open number 4 predictions for the Raleigh Major. Let's see who we've got here in Group A. We've got Gen G, Power Rangers, Rebellion, Strictly Biz, Ultimates, SimTalk +1, Space Station, and Team Evo. It's a pretty good bracket. So, as a reminder, Gen G is the newly traded Justin, who replaced Reddles. So it's Magic Bear Cheese and Justin. And if you remember, in Open 3, Gen G actually won the whole major. So they're looking for back-to-back results, but they have a different teammate this time. They have Justin instead of Reddles. That's a whole different topic. I'm not going to go too into it, but definitely an interesting factor here. Also, Power Rangers, that's Darklight, Hexic, and Mech. These guys did a really good job against Shopify Rebellion in the Swiss. Let me pull that up really quick. You can see it took them to 3-2. So that match was very close with Shopify. So Power Rangers is a solid team. They 3-0'd Season L. They 3-2'd Cobalt. And they 3-1 to 135. And then they lost to the Boys, which is a different team. I'll show you in Group B that qualified. So who do I think is going to win? I do think Gen G has the ability to come out the gate stronger, and I really like the coaching team of Gen G. I think they come out and have really strong, well-structured round ones. I'm just going to give it a 3-1 with the possibility of it being closer than that. Could be a 3-2, potentially a 3-0, but I don't think I see that coming. Next up, we've got Shopify Rebellion, which is the newly traded Reddles on a team with Two-Piece and Parth. Let me show you that. Two-Piece, Parth, Reddles. They've got Memory as their coach and JNaps as a new assistant coach. That was also announced in recent history. Then they've got Strictly Business, which is Crispy, Ixo, and Aris. Does anyone know what the emphasis is to pronounce that? These guys, very strong team, had great results in the first Open, I believe. They went either top 6 or top 4. So they're a good team. Or maybe I'm thinking of something else, but this is a good team. Rebellion, Parth, Two-Piece, Reddles. In my opinion, watching the gameplay, Reddles looked like the strongest member of the team. There was definitely some mistakes that they were making that I think if they clean up, they can be a very top-level competitive team. There was a lot of clears and not so great touches. I do think Rebellion is going to give us a nice 3-2 and have us see Gen G versus Shopify Rebellion in the upper semifinals, which is the match everybody wants to watch because we want to see who won the trade, Reddles or Justin. That would be cinema and also what the fans want to see. So please, Power Rangers and Strictly Biz, take your first round loss with dignity and you can work through the lowers. We want to see Gen G Rebellion. Now you've got the Ultimates, who came off a really strong second half of the first split in Birmingham, where they got to the grand finals and lost to K-Corp. They did get swept by K-Corp in the grand finals, but they also beat a bunch of quality teams to get there, including NRG. So there's definitely some chatter about the Ultimates being the best team in NA right now, just based on previous results. So as a reminder, that's First Killer, LJ, and Chronic, and then SimTalk +1. This is Talk, Simas, and Tricky. This was kind of a team that was assembled in the last week or so because there was an announcement from Talk that since he didn't quite find a team he wanted to play on, he was going to take this major off. And the reality is, with only 2 majors and then Worlds, if you take the second major off, you're pretty much taking the rest of the year off. So he ended up changing his mind after thinking about it, and I think he also got some feedback from the community or other players maybe that changed his mind. So they're playing. I do think the Ultimates is a better team and is going to beat this team pretty well, but I wouldn't be surprised if they give up one game. A sweep wouldn't be ridiculous here either. SimTalk upsetting Ultimates would be a big surprise, I think. Okay, let's move to this last match here in Group A. Space Station Gaming, which is also newly formed with Kofor being traded, or coming from Complexity. No, Kofor coming from 9 Lives, sorry. So Scrabbles, Reveal, and Kofor, who were looking very good in the Swiss matches. You can see they did really well against the other teams, like they 3-2'd Strictly Business, 3-0'd Schnitzelhaus, and 3-0'd SOS. They did lose to Gen G, but Gen G is known for having great Swiss results, so I don't know, maybe there's something there. And then Team Evo, which is Relating Wave, Speed, and Arju. This is another very high-level team in NA, unfortunately, because it's all imports, but these are all guys that are going to college here in the States, and they're playing in CRL as well as RLCS. CRL is Collegiate Rocket League, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it stands for. Otherwise, it might just be College Rocket League. So that is kind of another competitive circuit that's at a higher level for the top teams. That's Relating Wave, Speed, and Arju. So who do I think is going to win here? Honestly, this one's a bit of a toss-up because I do think that Space Station had an easier run. You can see Team Evo swept Shopify, but got swept by Ultimates and 9 Lives, which is really interesting results. That makes it kind of hard to read because it means that they play well against the mid-tier teams, but they don't quite have a peak to beat these top-level teams. What do you guys think? I'm going to say that Space Station does squeeze this out, but I think it's close. I think it's a 3-2, and if Evo beats Space Station, I'm not super surprised here. So that leaves our upper semis as Gen G Rebellion, Ultimate, Space Station. I like to go to the right here and do Group B's first round. Oops. Here we've got Complexity, Deleted, Pirates on a Boat, 9 Lives, NRG, Was Up, The Boys, and Nah. So Complexity is CRR, Diaz, and Frosty. Frosty's new. He replaced Ray's Bull. Ray's Bull, of course, moved to Sam to play, I believe, for Godfidence, one of the top teams down in Sam, to be closer with family. So there's kind of a change there. Complexity obviously made the major in Birmingham, but didn't quite have the results they were looking for. So I think them switching it up was a good thing that ended up working out positively for everybody. So Complexity, CRR, Diaz, Frosty, how'd their Swiss go? Went very well. They 3-1'd Was Up, they 3-2'd Cobalt, and they 3-0'd The Boys. So they did very well against the teams they played with. They didn't play anyone that was super high level, but they did get good results. Then you've got Deleted Gaming, which is Andy, Gyro, and Wavy. It's a fun team to watch. I really like this Deleted roster. Then how'd they do? Sorry, they were Group A. They squeezed in, 3-2'd Glampers, got swept by Pirates on a Boat, got swept by Schnitzelhaus. They beat GAC, and they beat SOS. And you can see they have the worst Buckles score here because the teams they beat basically didn't make it. And the teams they lost to, one of them didn't make it, and the other did. So not a great showing from them. Therefore, I'm going to give them a 3-1. I think Complexity beats Deleted here. I do think there's a lot of room for this Deleted roster. Maybe they look at doing a switch next year and keep 2 of their players, but I think they have some stuff they need to work on to become a top 4 team. I think they're pretty consistently top 8 in the NA, bottom of the top 8, if that makes sense, like 7th or 8th usually. And they have a higher ceiling, but I don't think their floor is super high right now. So if they can keep working on that, I think they're going to be a very good team to keep our eye on. Pirates on a Boat is 5-Up, Creams, and Hockey. And 9 Lives is Chicago, Hoxer, and Zanil. Zanil is new. Kofor was on 9 Lives and got recruited over to Space Station Gaming instead. So the 9 Lives picked up Zanil. Let's look at how Pirates on a Boat Swiss went. They did pretty well. They had a sweep over GAC. They swept Deleted Gaming, they got swept by NRG. We'll talk about NRG next because they played fantastic. Schnitzel House, 3-2'd them, so kind of close. So it's tough to read that. They got slammed by a top team, but they also slammed a couple other competitive teams. And then 9 Lives, they beat Little Step Bros, which is Alpha Kep's team. They lost 1-3 to the boys, but the boys also had pretty good results. Got 3-0'd by they 3-0'd the Lemons, and they 3-0'd Evo. That's a good sign that 9 Lives beat Evo. That's showing some growth for them as a roster, because I believe they have lost to them in the past couple opens. This one's tough for me. I think I picked 9 Lives over Pirates, and I think it's relatively close. I don't think it's a blowout either way. And if Pirates 3-2'd 9 Lives, I wouldn't be super surprised either. NRG, my favorite team, basically because they have Daniel, who's my favorite player. Atomic, Beast Mode, and Daniel. Daniel was playing insane. If you want to some serious Kool-Aid to drink, watch their Swiss run on their NRG GG channel, and you'll see Daniel went crazy. I think NRG has a habit of playing to the other team's level, and then sometimes slightly beating them, and then sometimes fumbling and losing. But this time it really looked like they were just separated from their competition. Now, as a reminder, they 3-0'd SOS, they 3-0'd CMK, and they 3-0'd Pirates on a Boat. So they swept their entire Swiss run, but they didn't have the most competitive teams. So you can see only one of the teams they played made the top half of their group. So not the hardest run for NRG. But they did play. I wouldn't say they played perfectly, but their record was perfect. They 9-0'd. And it wasn't a perfect sweep. They didn't hold the teams to 0 goals, but they did have some good dominant wins. What's up is Expert, Jazzy, and Devo, which is kind of an interesting team. Those guys all kind of have a different background, different ages. So it's an interesting group. I kind of wonder how they all came together. They lost 1-3 to Complexity, 3-0'd Little Step Bros, 3-0'd 100 by 35, 2-3 close loss to Shopify, and then 3-1 to Lemons to secure their spot. I don't see them taking a game off NRG, but I wouldn't hold it past NRG to lose a game just for fun. I don't think they lose it for fun. I'm just being sarcastic, but they do have a habit of not always taking the first half of these tournaments super seriously and not going out and dominating right off the start. They usually get better as the tournament goes, which can sometimes put them in tough spots. The boys, that is Percy, Evo, and Aqua. This is a cool team, probably a fan favorite team. Let's see. They had a pretty strong Swiss. They 3-0'd Golden Hour. They 3-1'd 9 Lives, which is a strong result. They got swept by Complexity, and then they 3-1 Power Rangers. Pretty strong. Then NA is Adum, Knight, and Hazo. I believe these guys are a CRL team. No, they're not. Okay. Adum, Maryville, Fisher College. Yeah, so there's some CRL players. Adum, Knight, and Hazo. And their Swiss results were 3-1 control out defeat, lost a close game to Genji, 2-3, 3-2 close game to SimTalk, 0-3 against Strictly Business, and 3-1 to CMK. So you can see they didn't really have any surprise results. Every team they beat, they did better than. Every team they lost, they did worse than. So they weren't too peaky, but they also didn't have a low floor. They kind of worked their way in. I do think the boys pull this off, and it's probably close. So I'm going to say the boys beat NA here, and these are our uppers for top 8. So let's go ahead and do all of Group A now, and I'm going to take a quick drink of water. Okay, upper semifinals. We've got Genji versus Rebellion. So this is the juicy match. Who is going to do better? Is it going to be Reddles or Justin that win? Reddles now being Shopify Rebellion, Justin now being on Gen G. I do think we get a fun match here, but I think Gen G is a significantly better team than Rebellion, and the floor is a lot higher. Cheese and Magic Bear are playing better than Two Piece and Parth right now. Just in Reddles, I can see pros and cons for both. I saw definitely some sparks watching Rebellion, but if you watch the CJ stream, it was entertaining, but if you're a fan of them, it was probably tough to watch how many mistakes they made. Granted, this is their first, week or two of playing together, so we'll see. But Gen G wasn't making the same level of like silly mistakes and bad defense decisions and bad offense decisions and just questionable choices. So I have to send Rebellion to the lower bracket here. And this could very possibly be strictly business playing here as well. Rebellion could fumble the first round. Ultimate Space Station, that I think I still have to give to the Ultimates, but let's maybe make it a close game. I think Space Station plays well out the gates. And then that leaves Gen G Ultimates in the uppers. I don't see too many surprises here. I think that Gen G maybe grabs a game off of them, but I do think the Ultimates is a better team than Gen G. And I think that every player on the Ultimates is a higher tier player than every player on Gen G. And then when you add them together, I do think Ultimates has a higher floor and a higher peak than Gen G. Granted, we know that Gen G can peak to win majors. I think Ultimates are a better team. Not a very controversial pick, really. Now, let's look at the lower quarterfinals and find the other 4 teams that will advance. We've got Power Rangers and Strictly Business. Just for my own memory, we've got Darklight, Hexic, and Mech versus Crispy, Ixo, and Eris. I'm going to go out and give this one to Strictly Biz, but relatively close. Sim Talk +1, Team Evo. As a reminder for myself, that's Talk, CMOS, and Tricky. Team Evo is going to be Relating Wave Speed and Arju. It's kind of like the team with some really good players versus the team that plays together. I think I have to give it to the team that plays together, but it could be close. And so I think Sim Talk +1 are going to get eliminated. And I think it's going to be a frustrating experience for Talk, but I think he'll get picked up by a really quality roster for next year. Space Station, Strictly Business. I like Space Station here. Rebellion over Team Evo. I do think Reddles propels them to a top 8. And I think they get swept here probably. This is the type of thing they would do. They would sneak their way in and then get swept for the placement match. So that's my thinking for there. So that means Ultimates, Gen G, Space Station, Rebellion move on. No super controversial picks there. Let's look at this Group B bracket now. Complexity, 9 lives. I think based on what we've seen, I like Complexity here better. But 9 lives could do some interesting things. Just kind of depends how good Hoxer's playing, honestly. If he's playing really strong, then I like 9 lives over Complexity. NRG versus the boys. Here, I like another 3-1. I think they maybe troll one game or get a OT loss in one game. Complexity over NRG. This has been a really strong matchup for NRG historically against the previous roster, which is 2 out of the 3 players now. So I think NRG does very well against Complexity, and it's not super close. Deleted versus Pirates on a boat. Ooh. I think Pirates probably sneak this, but Deleted could win. What's Up versus Nah, just as a reminder for myself. What's Up is Expert, Jazzy, and Devo. Nah is Adum, Knight, and Hazo. I think What's Up clinches the win here, but to be honest, I don't know how these teams have historically played against each other, so I can't say one's way better than the other. I do think the boys is Percy, Evo, Aqua versus 5-Up Creams, Hockey. I do think Pirates is a stronger group than the boys, and I do think 9 lives is a stronger group than Was Up. And I think 9 lives would 3-2 Pirates here, so that would be NRG, Complexity, 9 lives, and Pirates. Also not super controversial, but This has deleted going out pretty early. They have the possibility to qualify, I think. So we're going to have them going out early. Let's look at our playoff now. I'm taking another drink of water. Let's do the lower round first. So we've got Space Station Gaming versus Pirates, best of 7. I think Space Station here makes it not too close, 4-2 maybe. Well, Space Station Gaming is kind of like either they have close games or they have blowouts. They don't really have too many in-betweens, it feels like. But I'm going to give them an in-between because I think Pirates on a Boat has the skill and the floor to beat Space Station at least twice in a best of 7. Not ridiculous to say Pirates would win either. 9 Lives Rebellion. I think this is 9 Lives time over Rebellion. Parth 2-piece Rattles versus Chicago Hawks or Zanil. I think I have to give it there, but I think it's close, and maybe it goes game 7 overtime. Could be a super fun series. Could be hard to watch if you're a fan of Rattles or Shopify Rebellion, but I don't see the way they're playing. I don't see them being anything above a top 7 or 8 finish. They didn't give me a lot of confidence watching their Swiss games. They had a really hard time against some lower level teams, and I don't think these higher level teams are going to give them space to work. So Ultimates Complexity, I like Ultimates here. I don't think it's super close. I think Ultimates on a tear. They're feeling good and they're playing better. Energy over Gen G. I believe, yeah, they did not play in Swiss. They were in the same bracket. I like Energy here, especially if we see the Daniel that was playing in Swiss here against Gen G. I think this is also probably a 4-1. I think our top 2 teams keep dominating this region realistically. So that takes us to the upper quarterfinals. That's lower quarterfinals. That's Complexity Space Station versus and then Gen G versus 9 Lives. So Complexity over Space Station. This is interesting because this is also a revenge matchup because Complexity has Frosty, who left from Space Station on not the best terms from what I understand. Space Station picked up Kofer from 9 Lives, who was playing there in 9 Lives on the first split. This one's a tricky one. I could see this going different ways. I think Frosty... Sorry, this is really a tough decision. I think Frosty gets his get back here. 4-3 Complexity, close series. Would not be surprised if Space Station came out and played amazing, but I think Frosty gets his get back, and I think DS starts shining. I think we see that DS has such skill 1v1ing, and he's only going to get better at 3v3 as he's a rookie in the 3v3 scene, basically. Gen G, 9 Lives. We've got Justin's squad, which feels wrong saying that based on how it's been the last split. Justin's squad versus 9 Lives. I think Gen G actually get a top 4 here, but this could be competitive. 4-2 maybe. I don't know if 9 Lives has the peak to get top 4 yet. That leaves NRG Complexity. I do think NRG beats Complexity relatively handily. We had them going up here as well, right? Yeah, we had them 3-1 in Complexity in the upper, and we're going to have them 4-1 them in the semifinals to put them out of the tournament in top 4. Ultimates, I think, also play against Gen G. I think maybe Ultimates sweep Gen G. Ultimates have been playing really strong against that style, and I think they sweep them here in the semifinals, which then leads to our 2 favorite teams in NA, Energy Ultimates. Boring. Well, not really. The thing is, we got to see who's going to peak. Is it going to be Daniel, Beast Mode Atomic? Is it going to be LJ, First Killer Chronic? This is a revenge game for NRG. I think they smash the Ultimates. That's my prediction. The energy I saw was an energy that, from this Swiss, was an energy that has very likely the possibility to win the whole major and event. Ultimates, of course, got to grand final in the last event, had a chance, had a look at winning, but I do think NRG is a better team than Ultimate still. And that's why I'm going to pick them as the champion here. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that's a bad pick. Let me know if you think my top 4 were wrong. If you think Space Station's going to make it, or Complexity. I don't really see any of these other teams having a good run at it, but if you can make the justification for it, please leave a comment, because I love reading the comments and the hot takes. Love seeing those things. So please let me know what you think. Let me know where I got it wrong or what you think differently. We got some good Rocket League ahead of us this weekend. I'll be tuned in the whole time, trying to watch as much as possible. So thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support. Please leave a comment with what you think or who you think's going to win, or any takes you disagree with or agree with. Hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you and take care. Bye.